Thank you very much for inviting Google to participate in this event. I'm very excited. I'm actually starting to feel a little bit of pressure now because I've just been told that this is going to be a very exciting session, so thank you. And I'm also a little bit nervous because, not because I'm talking to you guys, but in about an hour's time I have to talk to 80 children or kids in that room over there. And that's going to be, as I say, you should never work with kids or animals, and it's going to be interesting. So I think no matter what happens here in the next 20 minutes, we should be fine. Yes, we're back online. My name is David Geraghty. I work in Google, work in Dublin. I've been there for 7 years, and my job is to grow online businesses across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I spend every day working, I suppose, at the intersection of the internet and business. I help businesses link the physical and the digital world. And I suppose what I want to get across to you guys in the next couple of minutes is the fact that your business needs to be online. The internet has flattened the world. It has removed borders and boundaries, and your marketplace should not be within a couple of miles of this building, but it should be global. I want to make sure that I give you guys some information on how you should strategically look at your business, specifically when you go back on Monday morning, or the smart ones this afternoon, what you will operationally do for your business, and also just talk a little bit about investment in people. And I'm going to start with that one. The average age of my team is 25. The average age of this room, including me, is probably not 25. We need to make an investment in the young people. I was at a dinner last night, which I was very, very kindly invited to by the Lord Mayor, and there were 3 people at that table who were 16, 16, and 19. Now, they weren't there with their parents. They were there because they are innovators, they are entrepreneurs, and they are really, really strong technically. You're going to hear from one of them this afternoon. The other 2 guys are from ThinkSpace, and they've got an exhibition in there where we have our tea and coffee. I would encourage you to talk to these guys. I mean, I was blown away by their stories. I was blown away by a 19-year-old talking about his career to date. When I was 19, I didn't have a career to date. I think I just started university, so very, very interesting. But let me talk a little bit about how I got here today. Belfast to Brisbane, they both begin with B. That's the reason, nothing else. It is purely to say to you guys, if I did this presentation 15 years ago, it would probably be Belfast to Banbridge, or maybe Ballyjames Duff or something like that. Today it's Brisbane. The world is here. But 15 years ago, I worked in Belfast. I got a job at a company called Apona, who I believe have just recently been taken over by Intel, so a success story in its own right. But I was nervous. How do I get to Belfast? Well, actually, I pulled out a paper map and worked out the roads that I had to drive. What did I know about Belfast? Well, what was on the TV, what I read in newspapers. I had a friend who was in Belfast once. I spoke to him. All very interesting, but data was all, I suppose, a little bit stale and maybe not the way it should be. How did I research for today? Well, John has already stolen my Halo joke, so I'll move on from that one. But everything is online. I did all my research online. Whether I drove up yesterday and Google Maps got me here, first time. I didn't have to pull a paper map out. I was able to navigate. I got a feeling for this room, and this amazing room, by the way, from the Titanic Belfast website. I knew the room that we're going to be in. There's videos. I got a feel for how to get here. And most importantly, I got a feel for you guys. So it's very important to know your audience. But how did I do that? Well, I looked at the Digital DNA website. I was monitoring the Twitter feed. I'm still monitoring the Twitter feed, quite nervously, but I'm monitoring the Twitter feed. And I could get a picture for the type of people that were attending. So what I'm saying is the digital world is changing the way we behave. Now, actually, just one interesting question. We may or we may not get time for questions later on. One question that came up in the Twitter feed in the last couple of days was, does a world full of people wearing Google Glass scare you? So that's actually me wearing Google Glass, and I did get an opportunity to do some of the research. So for me, the answer is no. I think wearables, whether it's watch, glass, are definitely the way forward, and we need to embrace the change, I think, as John mentioned. But I think it was a guy called Paul McGarity. So good news, Paul, is I do have something for you. Bad news is it's not Google Glass, but it's actually a pair of Google sunglasses. So if you're in the audience, come to me afterwards and I'll give them to you. So digital changed how I got here. But what else is it changing? How's the digital world changing the way you need to interact with your consumers and how they interact with your business? So years ago, the family living room picture was a bit like this. You would sit around the wireless, I think actually as it was then called, and that's how you got most of your information. Nowadays, the family may sit in the living room. The TV might very well be on, but you can be pretty sure that everybody, or at least those that are 25 and younger, are sitting there with an iPad, an Android device, a laptop, something, or a game console. They're doing something else, okay? As a business, what's important for you is to make sure that the experience that they see, whether it's on the TV, whether it's on the iPad, whether it's on a laptop, or whether it happens to be in a magazine, is consistent. And that's what I want to talk to you a little bit about. So, 2 quick things. John spoke about disruption. I think it's a very important word. Let me talk to you a little bit about the pace of change. So maybe this will scare, maybe it won't. The pace of change that we're seeing in technology today is the slowest that you guys are ever going to see it. Okay? So what is happening today is the slowest it's going to be. It's only going to get faster. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. The second piece is, and I'm going to apologize ahead, these slides were prepared 2 days ago. Some of the data may be out of date. That's how quickly stuff moves. So, with every generation, let me just describe what we're looking at here. Where we went from mainframe computers to microcomputing, through the 80s to PCs, 90s to connected PCs, we're now very much in the mobile world. Each new generation basically created 10 times more devices, and the usage increased tenfold. And that's just exponentially going. I don't know what the ... is up and to the right, but it's going to be 10x of whatever the mobile is. If I had said to you in the late 80s, early 90s, you know what, we're going to get to a day that everything is going to be connected. Those PCs are all going to be connected, and we're going to have mobile phones that are going to be able to do what they do today. The more technical you were at the time, the more skeptical you would have been. Okay? And that was fair. But we have to embrace this change. Everything is connected. And the next slide should show you everything is connected, but everything is connected all the time. Okay? I'm probably going to describe half of your behavior this morning, which was your alarm went off. Your alarm was your phone. Maybe it was 7 a.m. You picked up your phone, turned off your alarm, probably checked a Twitter feed. I know I did. Checked the hashtag digital DNA. You probably checked your email. You probably had a quick look, some news site. And then you might have gotten out of bed. You may have contacted Halo or used whatever to get a taxi here or go to work. In fact, in a couple of years, Halo, you will not have spoken to anybody at this stage. You will contact some application. A car will come and pick you up, and there won't even be a driver in the car to talk to. Okay? Driverless cars, you heard it here first. The point of this is, you then come here, you go to work, you come onto your laptop, you've already read your email on your phone. You expect when you log onto your PC or your laptop that your email has been synced and you don't need to reread files or mark them as read. You spend your day working, you have an external meeting and you decide you want to bring your laptop or your iPad or your Android device with you, and you want to make sure that the presentation is in the cloud, it's easily syncable with what you have. You go to your customer, you come back, you want to make sure any changes you've made can be seen by the guys back in the office. Point is, everybody is connected all the time. And when they're connected all the time, they have an opportunity to interact with your business, your product, your service, your brand all the time. So you need to make sure that you're presenting something consistent to the world. A few statistics here, and again, they're reasonably accurate, but we're talking 60-ish% of people have a smartphone. I think it's probably slightly higher at this stage. 6 out of 10 people feel compelled to use a device at least once per hour. That's actually wrong, because every single person since I've stood up here has looked at their phone. I think it says more about what I'm telling you and you're not interested, but that's a separate issue. We are so connected to our phones, and look, they're beside our bed, they're our alarm, they're our music device, whatever that happens to be. And I'll come back to the one about people using their device when they're watching TV. How many people in this room, let's see a show of hands, have researched a product on their mobile device? Okay. So this is really 100%, I would say, or close to it. How many people have actually bought something on their mobile device? Wow. How many people have bought something that costs more than £100 on their mobile device? Okay, everybody. How many people have bought something that bought more than £1,000? Expensive shoes. Furniture, perfect example. I mean, if I spoke to you guys even 5 years ago, I think people would have been extremely, extremely nervous. So you're in this category. More than 44% of people in here put their hand up to say they bought something. So you're probably a little bit more tech savvy than the norm. And 60% of those guys did it in the last month. So as a consumer, you've done that. As a business owner, have people bought from you on their mobile device? So the question I asked previously was from a consumer point of view. What you need to be thinking about as a business owner is, are they buying from me? Let's look into the future. Well, okay, let's look at Japan. It's the same thing. The green line is showing the mobile queries to Google over the last number of years. The blue line are showing queries from a laptop or a desktop device. Essentially flat for a desktop and laptop, mobile growing at a pretty exceptional rate. In April last year, the crossover happened. There are now more mobile interactions in Japan than there are desktop ones. This is a trend that we see around the world. Okay, we haven't quite got there yet, but by looking at Japan, you're seeing what's happening in these markets and in the rest of the Western world. We don't have to go as far as Japan, though, to see some very serious innovation. This is what everybody needs, a virtual supermarket. This is Tesco, this is Gatwick Airport. You're going on holidays. The worst thing, and you don't think about it on the way out, but when you land on your way home, it's like, we need to stop because we need to get milk, a pint or a litre of milk, I suppose, these days. We need to get bread. It's always the depression that kicks in when you land back into the cold weather. What Tesco have done is said, let's make it easy for you. Take your phone. We've got a billboard type situation, virtual supermarket. You scan in the barcodes. You tell us when you're back from holidays. You tell us where you live, and we'll deliver it within 1 hour you're coming home. So the point is here, you don't need to go to the Far East. You don't need to go to Japan to see the advances in mobile technology. So that's an example of what happens before you fly. Let's show an example. We'll play this video of what happens when you fly and you forgot to do something. Here we go.
We're headed to Lake Tahoe. It'll be a last minute, but I'm going to book that hotel in free fall.
Reservation for Mr. J.T. Holmes, please.
Woo! Landing was a bit of a doozy.
Hold please. Let me check our system. Get that reservation for Mr. Holmes.
You got it.
No way, we got it! Yeah!
Got that.
Nailed it.
So that's how I booked my stay last night in the Fitzwilliam. It's not to say that the concierge was pretty shocked when I landed out on close to outside the front door. Look, that's an extreme example. What does that tell us? This is showing that the consumer behavior is changing really, really fast. I mean, that video is from 2 years ago. I mean, that was, and it did actually happen, but that's 2 years ago. That's how quickly things are moving. Just before I finally move off, the first kind of piece I want to talk to you about, which is around devices and platforms and mobile, I'm going to probably not make any friends, but I'm going to accuse all you guys of being nomophobic, okay? So be very clear, I said nomophobic, okay? And you're probably mostly wondering what that is. Well, this is what it is. And again, from a business perspective, remember, the people who you are dealing with on a day-to-day basis suffer from this. This is a global epidemic. There is nothing we can do about it, okay? This is happening. This is the case. So let me shift gears slightly. I'll move from the platform to maybe the market opportunity that exists. Here's some statistics on the local market. Again, these are over a year old, but they tell a story. So let me just refer to the middle and on the right first of all. This is about the penetration within the market. I think it's higher. I think we have more people in Northern Ireland on smartphones and that, and I think we have higher penetration of tablets at this stage. The stat on the left-hand side, you have the best access to broadband in these islands. I mean, that's what that says. And we're after listening this morning to the Lord Mayor talking about the work that Belfast City Council are going to do, and they're going to offer £3,000 per small business to help them get online and get connected. And that was a £15 million opportunity. And he didn't get a round of applause then, but he deserves a round of applause now. £15 million to build this ecosystem for you guys. I mean, that is phenomenal, okay? So we'll package it and we'll give it to him later on, but he deserves that round of applause. This is creating the environment for you guys. That's one piece. Second component is, let's not just look at Belfast. Let's not just look at Northern Ireland. But I said earlier that the internet is breaking down boundaries, breaking down borders. So let's look at export. Let's think big. So what are these numbers? Well, these numbers are showing you the number of people that are online now, both mobile and online, and the people that are going to be there in 6-7 years' time. I mean, those numbers are billions. That's staggering. So the 15 million didn't get a round of applause. The billions definitely won't get a round of applause. But these are huge, huge numbers. This is the marketplace that you guys are now playing in. And that's both good and bad. I'll talk to you a little bit about the advantages and disadvantages of that. So what are people doing about it at the moment? Well, SMBs are growing at 42% year on year from an online sales point of view in the UK, and only 36% for export. So domestic, 42%. Export 36. I mean, to be honest, if you're in a business that's growing at 42% year on year in the current climate, that's phenomenal. The scary number there is that actually you're not making as much money from export as potentially can. And again, it's a UK statistic, but there's a $28 billion opportunity in the next 6 or 7 years. And we are going to see the export component of people's business grow 4 times faster than the domestic. Again, if somebody else is doing this and you're not, well, then you're going to get left behind. So what do you need to do? Take advantage of this opportunity. You need to compete in the global market. Well, the good news is the English-speaking global market is vast. So most people, I talk to companies on a daily basis, and I discuss export. I work with companies in some very depressed economies that have no option but to get out. I think in Northern Ireland there's definitely money to be made locally, but I think the real opportunity is by exporting. If I look at a couple of examples, and Paul is going to come up from Chain Reaction Cycles straight after, I'm not going to steal his whole story, but when I heard about that business, and they are a very valued and valuable Google customer, they have a phenomenal story, from a small family business to growing into a huge, huge global brand. I mean, and again, look at this. Their website is very slick. Their mobile offering is very slick. They sell from Albania to Zambia, and I'm purely calling out those 2 names because that was the top and bottom of the list of the markets that they deal in. They have a website that's translated, I think, to 8 different languages. Okay, these are a global, true global operator, and they're shipping product from Northern Ireland. Their export is huge. So I hope, Paul, I haven't stolen your whole story just there. In fact, so much so that they auto integrate with social. Their social offering is really, really strong. I had a look at their Google Plus page the other day, and I want a wooden bike. You should check it out. So let me look at some of the specifics, okay? because I think, I was given the remit to say, okay, if people leave here, what can they actually go and do? Well, first and foremost, I think the icon in the top left corner, get your business online, probably doesn't apply to this audience. But if you know somebody who doesn't have their business online, tell them to get it online. That was an initiative that Google ran across 40 different countries, where we just went out to small businesses, corner shops, small SMBs, and helped them get online free. Very basic online presence, but an online presence nonetheless. So if you're not online, get them online. But once you are, well, what do you want to do? And I'll go into each of these. We want to expand your online presence. We want to make sure that you're generating awareness. You wouldn't open up a shop, a physical store, and then not tell anybody where you were. You would advertise for that. We want to drive sales, and then we want to keep customers. So, firstly, the text is very legible. At this point, I usually say to people, can you all take out your mobile phones? But you all have them out already. Search for your business, your product, or your service. Okay, and you can do this afterwards. But what do you see? Is that experience what you would like it to be? Is it as good as you would like it to be? I guarantee you, if you search for chain reaction cycles, you will get a hell of an experience if you're interested in buying a bike or some sort of cycle equipment. But for your business, if somebody sits here and searches on their mobile phone, what is that experience like? Okay, that's the important piece. You need to optimize your website for all platforms and for mobile. And you need to then link it up with some social networks, be that, and Gail will talk about Facebook later on, or Google+, or the Twitter feed. Again, I'm really glad that it's small text and most people can't read what's happening over there, so hopefully I'm not getting too hard a time. We also want to generate awareness. You want to reach the right customer in the right place at the right time. So the statistic up there is showing that if a web user sees a display ad for your business, they may very well click through and go to your business directly. But 40% of them will at some stage later on go and search online for your product, your service, or your offering. You want to make sure that your brand that you showed in that ad is consistent with the brand that's on your website, and is also consistent with whatever you're doing in the physical or the offline world. You want to bring traffic to your site, and you want to sell. Driving sales. Let me just, these two examples are two ads, but just to show you what you can actually do, the two ads that you potentially see at Google. If we look at this, device-specific information. So one person is searching from their mobile phone on the left-hand side, the second person on their laptop. They're on their mobile phone. There's a good chance they want to know where that business is and how far away it is. So you can see that it says very small, but it's like, it's 1.1 miles away. The person sitting at home on their laptop is probably more concerned, say, hey, am I within the delivery area or the free delivery area? So you do that. The person on their phone, it's downtown in the evening time. It's dinner time. You want to give them some dinner offers. The guy on his laptop, it's lunchtime. Make sure you're sharing out some lunch deals. Other information that you can share. Again, it's difficult to read, but social annotation. If I see on an ad that, in this case, 118 of my closest friends have +1, or in Facebook talk have liked something, I'm very likely to want to interact with that brand. In this case, probably going to go and buy a pizza, because if that many people have liked it, it's probably got some really good, and for me that's really, really solid third-party validation. That beats any random website reviews or restaurant reviews. So again, basically driving sales, but this is about putting the whole package together, making sure that your social end is linked up to your mobile end, to your desktop, and in fact even your offline. And then finally, the other thing that businesses try and do, you all know that it is much, much cheaper to keep a customer than it is to go and acquire a new customer. So loyalty is paramount. Once somebody comes to your website and interacts with your brand or purchases from you, it's really, really important that you keep them. One way of doing it, and it's one way, maybe you go and build an app if we're still talking in the mobile world. I'll give an example of an app that I just came across the other day. Starbucks, okay, and we all know how important, after mobile phones, coffee is the most important thing for people to survive today. So you've got a perfect match here. What does the Starbucks app allow you to do? Well, it tells you about the products, so you can buy your whatever type of coffee you want, and it tells you everything that you need to know. It tells you where the closest one is, and in fact, it'll navigate you to there. It'll say, hey, there's the map, and this is how far you have to walk. You can store your reward card on it, so every time you buy a coffee, you get your rewards, get popped up with your points, whatever way it works. You can pay for it, so you don't need to have cash with your phone. You can just put it against probably a little payment machine, and you can pay. And then from a loyalty point of view, I mean, you're bought in then. If you've got a Starbucks app and like you're walking down the street and you know it's only another 100 yards away and there's 3 coffee shops along the way, you're still quite likely to go, no, I want to beef up my rewards. I want to go there. I know exactly what I'm going to get. And of course, then the pièce de résistance, as far as I'm concerned, is you can actually send Starbucks gifts to your friends. So it's like, hey, there's $1. I really like you. Go buy yourself a coffee. I mean, like, that's just win-win. If you start to do that, you know that you are a loyal Starbucks customer. Okay? So at this stage, it should be pretty clear that it's very, very important for you to have a very joined up physical and digital strategy. The quote here, I mean, look, everything becomes 1,000,000 times the size. That's very good from a positive perspective. Also remember that bad stuff can grow that quickly as well. So you really need to manage what you're doing online. So at this stage, I haven't noticed anybody sleeping. I think I've got reasonable engagement, and I think I've convinced you that it's not about why we should be operating in the digital environment, but you're probably thinking, how? What are you going to show? What are you going to do for me? So here are some of the questions I think you guys should be asking yourselves. So who analyzes and who looks at the mobile trends, or who looks at the activity on your website? Now, please don't tell me that it was the guy who came in for 2 weeks during the summer from school and did a really good job analyzing what's happening on our website, and that is now catching dust in the corner of the office. In fact, if it was the guy who came in from school, it's probably a really good piece of work. Take it out and get somebody on your team to then look at that and manage it. This is a senior responsibility, it's a senior person in your organization that should be looking at this. Who's looking at your offline marketing spend? It better be, if not the same person who's looking at your online, it better be they better be working very closely as a team. It needs to be integrated. What are your competition doing? Don't necessarily copy them, but be aware of what they're doing, because if they're doing something and you're not, they may potentially be stealing a march. And then also look at geographies, and I'll talk a little bit about this later on, but like, I mean, where are you getting this interaction from? So, sorry, I actually didn't realize that I was going to scratch my head at the same time as that came up. That was purely a coincidence. I was asked to come here today by the MBA Association of Ireland, and I'm very honoured to be here, but any interaction I've had with MBA classes before, it's always been difficult. They're always standing there going, so what? So what? You're after giving me all this information, looks really interesting, so what? And sometimes they put a 4-letter word in the middle of that, and it's not jobs, but they do say, so what? Okay, time. Okay. So I tell you what the so what is. The so what is, you need, and the theme of today is you need to build a business, and you need to connect with your consumers. You need to create your digital footprint. So these are the 4 things that you need to do. Create your website, and make sure that that website is your shop front to the world. It's there 24/7. It's what people will see when you're sleeping at night. It's what people will look at on mobile phones. It's what people will do when they're on social networks or clicking on ads. They will interact with your website. Make sure it works across all platforms. And this is like the 4 screens to victory. It's a Google term, Google phrase. But make sure that living room picture, I hope it's still clear in your mind. Make sure people are getting the same experience, no matter what device or what medium they're accessing or they're interacting with your business or your brand. Go global. This graphic is actually a representation of searches that people are doing on Google around the world. So the spikes up, the higher they are, the more searches that are being done. How many of those searches are to do with your business? That's the question you need to ask yourself. And then finally, measure, measure, measure. I think you're probably familiar with the phrase from John Wanamaker, which is half my advertising spend is wasted. I just don't know which half. Well, if he was around in the 2000s instead of the early 1900s, he wouldn't have that problem because he would be investing online And the great thing about online is you know what's happening with your money. And if it's not working, you stop and you do something else. Offline, the measurement isn't quite the same. So that's a little bit about the now. I'd like to just run this quick video. And this is the future. The future is here.
Okay, Glass, record a video.
This is it. We're on in 2 minutes.
Okay, Glass. Hang out with the flying club.
Google photos of tiger heads. You ready? You ready?
Right there. Okay, Glass, take a picture.
That is awesome.
Okay, Glass, record a video.
After this bridge, first exit.
Stay delicious and time. Arrow.
Google jellyfish.
Let's see. It's beautiful.
Thank you.